Thanks, guys. It's Pig here, and joining me is a special guest over from Adelaide, another Twitch streamer with an amazing stream and a great following. It is Wild. How are you doing, man?
Doing very well. How's yourself, mate?
I am having a great time here. It's my first time. I actually didn't make it down here last year, but you did, and we were talking about it earlier. It was your first time kind of seeing a big esports competition finals live.
Yeah, in an actual stadium environment. And you go to your mate's place, you play LAN parties, that's all great. And esports are like, well, that's great. You know, it's real, it's there, but it's not me. And then I came to here, and it blew me away. And like going and actually seeing it in this space, with the right mood, with the people, seeing on big screen, was amazing, incredible.
It's that electric atmosphere, isn't it? You know, you've got the crowd, which I think everyone's been starting to spread the stories about the Australian crowd, the infamous shoey, which everyone kind of references as well. I mean, it's been a great time. Of course, you are a streamer, and this is something we've been chatting a little bit already off camera. It's something I was watching your stream recently, crystal clear, beautiful setup recently. You're telling me you actually started swapping over to a 2PC setup?
I did. I've been using one PC for a very long time. I went out and invested, well, pretty heavily when I first became professional, and the plan was to get a very good CPU so I didn't have to worry about, you know, it would just work no matter what. So at that stage, that was the i7, that was the 5000 range, but I bought the insane version, the extreme, and that's a bit old, but it doesn't stop. Like, it's been a monster. So when I went across the two PCs, it was mainly because the GPU was an issue with encoding and with playing, especially new games. So going to two, it was the same sort of thing. I had to make sure that my super, chipset that does all the streaming, that continues to do all the encoding, everything's tuned to perfection. But the new machine I've got now that I built myself, that's got a current range i7 8000 series, and that's a monster. That's beautiful.
Yeah, those 8th gens just power out so much more. It's so funny because you upgrade your setup, right? And then it's like 6 months later, you're like, oh, there's something that's so much stronger that's out. Damn it.
Crazy.
You wish you could just always permanently upgrade. And this is something we were talking as well. So you've actually, with this 2P setup, this is something for the really nerdy streamers watching. There's a small percentage of you guys who stream as well who are interested in this stuff.
There are dozens of us.
There are dozens. And I was super surprised. You said you actually use the slow preset. Now, this is something for how you encode. Normally it's on like very fast or fastest, which is a setting which basically tells you how long your CPU is spending on each kind of frame, making sure it looks good. And when you have that on the faster one, there's a lot of movement, a lot of visualizations on the screen. You get a lot of tearing, right? A lot of things starting to break up. And I mean, I've experimented on going to like fast or slightly slower. You're actually on the slow setting, which is insane, and you've got that working really well.
Yeah, and that's 1080p, 60 frames a second, like real time. That's crazy. But even in slow mode, it's, as I said, took a bit of tweaking, but it's way possible. And the more encoding you do on your side, the better the picture is in resolution and clarity on Twitch's side. So the better it is, it's actually when you're sending it out, they've got something that's much better to work with to send out. So it makes a ton of a difference.
That's awesome, man. I mean, it was something because, I was watching your stream, I was saying, and I was like, oh, you're moving around quickly in an FPS, and there's no tearing. And I was like, oh, what is the mystery? And it's always something where us guys get envious of the streamers like you who have the dream set up right now. And this is something I think we've all seen evolve, and I'm sure you've seen it change a lot over the years. When did you first start streaming, and what was your rig like and your internet back then compared to now?
Yeah, well, about that. I've always had a good PC because I've been streaming, I've been gaming for so long. And it was also my role because I used to work in IT. So I've always had like the best that I could get. But you'd cut corners where you can. And so when I first started, it was very much a case of just showing people that you could do stuff. And the game development stuff I was showing off was really just, look, 50% of my time was in Notepad. You don't need a lot of encoding for that, so there's not much changing there. But as I started going on playing Minecraft, doing mod packs and showing all that off, it really was a careful balancing act. And if you pushed even one part too far, it just fell over. I first started streaming, I had 1.2 meg up. I was doing 540p at 30 frames a second, and I tell you, that's actually a secret. You can get a really quality, crisp image. 540p, of course, doubles to 1080, so it's a very nice transition. But It was very low end. It was just what I could do, and that was all. And the only real advantage I had at that point was actually having that i7, because that was the monster chip that I had. Yeah. And I had that because I was doing compiling and encoding. So going across to streaming, firstly as a hobby and then as an actual thing, I've only now got the 8th generation i7. I haven't needed it. That old one has been an absolute monster, and I'm still using it. You know, it's been like 5 years. I'm still using it. So yeah, it's been a hell of a thing. And the transition from like then to now has been crazy.
That's insane. I mean, VR is something which a lot of people are talking about. Obviously, you know, there's the Nux and everything. What are you most excited about in this next wave? I mean, obviously the 8th gen that you've just got is amazing, and that's going to do some stuff for your stream, but what else tickles your fancy the most? What toy are you most excited to play with next?
It's probably VR, actually. It's got to the point where I started doing a bit of game dev. I haven't done it in ages. I'm getting back into it. And I'm making this like silly Zelda-esque sort of thing just to get back into it. But I started working with Unity and then looking at their VR support, and now I've got a mate of mine who codes, and we're talking. We have some ideas. But VR is just incredible. And it's not even just the big, like what we've seen over here. I got the Oculus, I plugged it in, and one of the first things I did was my daughter came in going, "Oh damn, we got an Oculus." So one of the first things I did was just get hold of, like, you know, Google Earth, and got her to roam around. I got her to, we bought like one of those tour the universe sort of things, and she got to go and stand on the moon. And this is an amazing moment as a father. She was on the moon, turned around, looked up at the Earth, and went, "That's so small." And that concept that you can actually even do that, that's just, look, it's going to be the big thing. It's going to be the next thing.
That's beautiful. That's actually so cool, hearing about, you know, those sort of experiences that you can get now virtually, and it is something which the technology is allowing us to do. It's just so much fun hanging out here this weekend, meeting cool people like yourself for the first time who I've only watched online before. Thank you very much for joining me, mate. We're going to send it back over to the studio to Hingers. See ya.